Hi everyone, my name is Faizul Haque. I am a Java full stack trainer. I have total 7 years of experience in Java full stack training. And today I'm going to take a session on Hibernate framework that are used in Java uh, backend development courses. So yeah, when we talk about Java backend development courses, one of the most important framework that is Hibernate. Now, the important thing is you should know what exactly the Hibernate is. So, what is the Hibernate and in what purposes we will be using Hibernate, right? So, I'm assuming that almost all of you are having the basic concept of Java programming languages, right? And I'm also assuming that you have the basic knowledge of MySQL, right? Because in our course, we will be connecting our Java application with our MySQL databases. So you all know the importance of databases, right? So generally what we do to connect with our database from Java application, what we do, we use JDBC, right? JDBC will provide the connection between the Java application and our databases. So here, once we connect our database with Java application, we need to write the query still manually, right? So as a developer, we need to focus more on the SQL commands as well. So here we have a very good technology, or you can say frameworks that are available in Java, and that is Hibernate. So Hibernate will tell us, right, hey, you just focus on your Java application, build your logical buildings. I will take care of this entire connection. That connection part I will handle, right? So that what we can say, our Java application will be connected to our backend, that is MySQL, and that part will be handled by Hibernate. Now, if we talk about Hibernate, what exactly the Hibernate, we can simply tell that Hibernate is an ORM tool, right? So throughout this entire session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a live, you know, uh, demo on this Hibernate, what exactly the Hibernate is, and how we can implement that Hibernate, how the Hibernate will help us in our Java development courses, right? So I'm going to share my screen so that I can give you a small introduction about the Hibernate theoretically. And then once we are familiar with those few terminologies, we will start implementing those concepts. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So as you can see here, we are going to learn about the Hibernate, right? So as I have already mentioned, what exactly the Hibernate is, right? So Hibernate is an object relational mapping tool for Java, right? In short, we can say ORM tool. Now we must know what exactly the ORM is. So I will give you a brief introduction about this ORM, okay? What exactly the ORM will do? ORM is a specification, right? What is that specification? That ORM will give instruction to Java application that you give me the classes, right? We have learned about the classes, right? In a particular class, we have different properties. Let's say I want to create a database, and that database name is suppose for employee. For employee, we have different tables in RDBMS, especially in MySQL. We have different tables. Let's talk about one employee table. In an employee table, we will have ID, we will have the name, right, designation, so on, right? As a Java developer, what we will do, we will write the class, and inside the class, we can define the properties and the methods as well. So in the particular class, we will define different properties and also the methods. Now those classes will be mapped into database table, and that part will be handled by our Hibernate. So what is the Hibernate? Hibernate is the implementation of ORM, right? So ORM will give instruction to Hibernate that, hey Hibernate, this particular programmer wants to convert this class into database table. Can you please help that? So Hibernate will get instruction from ORM, and accordingly, with the help of different predefined classes and interfaces, Hibernate is going to map those properties into database table. That is what we are going to learn throughout this session, and then also we are going to do it practically, right? Now, if we talk about in detail about the Hibernate, as you can see, this is a open source lightweight Java framework, right? As I have mentioned, these are used to map Java classes to database table. Why? Because it simplifies data handling by bridging the gap between object-oriented programming and relational database. So if possible, I would like to annotate here. So as you can see here, I would like to give a small introduction on this. Let's say we have a class, right? I would like to write here only. Definitely, I'm going to give you a practical demonstration on this. Don't worry about that part. Okay. So I'm going to write a class. Let's say here employee. So I'm assuming that you already have learned about the basic of Java programming, how to create the classes, right? So suppose I want to create a database table. Let's say employee. Here on this side, we will have our database, right? Inside here, we are going to create a table, and that table name will be based on the employee, okay, the class which we are going to write here, right? Let's say here in the employee class, we have some properties. Let's say a private integer eid. That is how we define properties, right? I'll write only two properties. Let's say one more property is private string, and then we can say employee name, right? And then accordingly we will define different methods. Let's say constructor, setters method, getters method. We will define that. I will show you practically all those. For now, let's try to understand what exactly the mapping is, right? So in this class, if you observe, we have two property. One is employee id and another one is employee name. So here on top we have ORM, which is object relational mapping. That is just a specification, right? So this ORM will instruct Hibernate to map this EID into database table. So this is our database. I'm writing here DB. Inside database, we will have multiple tables. So for this employee class, they will map a table. And so this is employee table, right? So I'm writing here employee. So we have two properties. One is EID, another one is employee name, right? So by this name, they will create a table. Let's say EID will come here, and then here E name will come here. So EID will be mapped to this particular field, and then E name will come and it will be mapped here, right? So to map this particular properties into database table, here ORM will help us with the help of Hibernate. So what exactly the Hibernate is? Hibernate is the implementation of ORM tool. So we will see in detail about that. Okay, so I'll move ahead. So as you can see here, why Hibernate? Like I have already give you the short introduction about the Hibernate. This is used to reduce the development type. Like I have mentioned at the very beginning, that Hibernate is going to help us to connect with our database and write the SQL commands automatically for us, right? So as a Java developer, we will give more times to our business logics, right? Now, this will eliminate our manual SQL and JDBC coding. I already have give this at the very beginning. Now, what Hibernate handles, right? It handles mapping of Java data types to SQL data types. We all know that in Java we have different data types, right? Primitive data types, then derived data types. Similarly, in SQL also we have different data types, right? Character, var character. For dates we have date. So they are going to map automatically from one type to another type, right? And also we can say the conversion of tabular data into object graph. Now, like I have mentioned, that what exactly the ORM is. ORM is the specification, right? That will map the Java data types to SQL data type. So I have given you a short diagram example, right? How that properties are mapped to the database table. It resolves impedance mismatch in granularity. So when you say granularity, what does it mean? So in a class, let's say we have a class employee, right? So every employee have their primitive types. Let's say I have given one example. I'm just writing here for now integer. Let's say EID, right? This is a primitive types of data. So if I write here a class, let's say address. This is the reference actually, huh? So address, address. So now this EID is a primitive types of data. Now when you talk about this address, the type of this address is address. So address, you can see this address starts with a capital letter A. That means this is a class. So we are giving a reference. There might be one class, let's say here, class address. So under this address, let's assume that it has some properties, uh, let's say code, okay, zip code, straight, so on, you can go ahead, okay. So what we are doing, we are giving reference from address class inside the employee class. So that this is a primitive types of data, and this is a class reference we are giving. So this ORM will automatically handles these different types of data, that is known as granularity. Inheritance you already know, right? If you are bringing some properties from its parent class to the derived class, this ORM will automatically handle that. They will maintain the identity and also the association. Now, when we talk about the association, association means we will have multiple classes, right? Like I mentioned, we are going to deal with a project. In that particular project, we will be having multiple entities. So I'm going to, let's say, suppose I'm going to develop a project that is employee management system. In that employee management system, we will have the details of employee. For that, we can maintain a employee class, right? And that class will be mapped to database table. Similarly, in that employee management system, we can have some department, right? So department details will be there. Similarly, we can have the projects, right? So different classes will be there, and how those classes are associated with the other classes. In short, we can say the mapping, right? One to one, one to many to many. I'm sure you must have learned before also. If not also, we are going to learn in depth about that, right? So how a particular class is associated with the another class, that will be defined by this ORM. Okay, so this is the brief introduction about the ORM, which we are going to learn in detail practically as well, right? Now, these are some of the features of Hibernate. Okay, we will quickly go ahead. It supports object-oriented principle like inheritance, polymorphism, okay, transparent persistence, automatic database updates, right? Database independent. Okay, it works with any types of database. Let's say we will be focusing more on MySQL. You can work with Oracle, right? It provides Hibernate Query Language, another language which are available in Hibernate. Through that HQL, we can directly communicate with our backend, or we can say our databases, right? So those commands we can write in our Java classes. So we will write the HQL, okay? And from HQL, we can fetch or we can write some data in our database. Fine. Now, these are the uh, detailed overview of Hibernate. Now, when we talk about Hibernate, like I have mentioned already, that Hibernate is the implementation of ORM, right? So already we have seen what exactly the ORM. ORM is basically mapping those properties that are defined inside the class into the database table, right? Now, to implement that ORM, we have here Hibernate, right? We have here Hibernate. Now, when you talk about Hibernate, like I mentioned here, Hibernate have some predefined interfaces and classes. And these are the most important predefined classes and interfaces that will help us for mapping those classes properties into databases, right? The very first one is configuration class. This is a class. Okay, so this class, we need to create one instance of this configuration class so that we can avail the properties that are available inside the configuration. So this is a predefined class. It has so many predefined properties or methods. Let's say one of the most important property is configure. Okay, so to get avail the configure method, we need to create the instance of this configure class, right? So once we create the object of this configure class, next most important thing is we have some predefined interfaces. So these are the interfaces. I'm sure you must have learned about the interfaces, right? Now what is interfaces? So interfaces are what? Here the specifications, the those methods which are defined inside the interfaces are not defined there, right? Just declared. We cannot create the object of that interfaces as well, right? Now when we talk about session factory, this is one of the most important interfaces, okay, through which we can communicate with our databases. So as you can see in this diagram as well, for initially we need to create the instance of this configure class. Once with the help of that instance, we can create, or you can say we can refer to this session factory. Why we are referring session factory? Session factory will have so many predefined properties and also the methods which we are going to use while connecting with our databases. Once we refer to this session factory, we have one more interfaces, that is session, right? So this session factory will be, different for different databases. So for our MySQL, we will be creating one session factory, right? S- Once we create the reference for session factory, we will move ahead to the session. So session is another interfaces. We need to refer that session in order to communicate with our database, right? And to perform the transactions in the sense like we suppose we are going to store some data in our databases, right? Let's say I want to fetch some data, I want to store some data. So to perform those, we need to create one reference of transactions as well. Okay, if we are not creating the transactions, then whatever data we are going to store, that will not be stored inside the database permanently. So we need to refer the transactions, right? I hope you understood. Transition means create, read, update, delete, all those operations which we have learned in our databases. Now, query is one more interfaces which we are going to refer in case you need to communicate with our database tables. Let's say I want to fetch some particular record, so we will be taking help of this query interfaces. So these are the most important components, we can say, that Hibernate uses. So now we are going to practically implement this entire concept. Okay, I hope you all got the concept of this Hibernate. Let me quickly summarize the basics of this Hibernate. Hibernate is an ORM tool, right, that are used to communicate with our databases. Why we are going to communicate with databases? Because in our project we need to store the data inside our databases, and earlier what we did, we wrote manual SQL commands for communicating with the databases. Now we have a framework. Now whenever we say framework, framework means the ready-made architecture. Now when we say ready-made architecture, we have some predefined classes and interfaces that we are going to use in our Java. So I hope you all got the basic idea about the Hibernate. Now I'm going to share my uh, 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 these are the configuration classes. So directly I'm going to give you practical implementation on this, okay, and then we will see how exactly we can communicate with our databases, and also will implement it here, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my tools, okay. For this tool I'm going to use STS, okay. You can use IntelliJ or maybe some other tools, right? VS Code also you can use. In my case, I generally to I use Eclipse as well. Okay, you can use Eclipse as well. Here I'm going to show you the demonstration based on this STS, which is Spring Tool Suite. Okay, so let me quickly share my STS so that I can guide you how exactly we can create a project and how exactly we can implement this Hibernate concept, right? So I'm sharing my STS. Just give me a minute. My STS is getting ready. Yeah, once STS gets open, I will be sharing my STS. Yeah, so my STS, we will see on this. So I'm sharing my STS. Okay, so hope this visual. Okay, fine. So as you can see here, this is my STS. Some previous existing projects are there. So now there are two things. First of all, let me tell you, there are two things. Like in order to implement this Hibernate, or maybe in later on we are going to learn about the Spring framework as well. So whenever we deal with these frameworks, right, we can directly go ahead with the basic Java projects, and also we can go ahead with the uh, Maven project. Okay, what is that Maven? Maven is a build tools, right? Build tools means what? Here we do not have to write those jar file and manually we have to import there, right? So I'm going to guide you how exactly we can create a project. So as you can see, this is Spring Tool 4 version. Okay, you can use the latest version. I'm sure you'll be, this is not something very different. We will be using this STS in our backend project as well, right? The interface of this tool is very similar with the Eclipse. So those who have already used the Eclipse framework, it will not be something very new. Okay, it's almost same. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a project first of all, and then we are going to implement whatever we have discussed so far, right? So if I let's go ahead with the project. So click on File, and from here you can see here New, right? Now you can see here Java project. Here also you can create the basic Java project, but that will be kind of manual because we need to like, this is a framework, right? Hibernate framework. So what you need to do in Java project, you need to download the jar file for Hibernate, and then you have to import. Similarly for MySQL is another application, so we need to download the jar file. So if we go ahead with the Java projects, normal project, right? But I will go ahead with the Maven project. Later on, I'll guide you how to create this Spring Starter project, so that we are going to learn in future. Now, for now, let's move ahead with the Maven project. I'm sure you already know what is Maven. Let me give you an introduction about the Maven. Maven is a build tool, right? Here we will have some predefined architecture, and we will just give the information required. What are the entity classes we have? What are the database connection? Like in JDBC, we used to provide the database username, password. So all the details we have to provide here. So just click on new. This window will come. Click on next, and here you can see already I used to guide other batches as well. So as you can see here in the catalog, you just select internal. Okay, and then in the filter, if you type here quick, already it is selected in my case. You just need to select this quick start 1.1. Okay, then click on next. So as you can see here, some group ID is already given here because like I mentioned, I was guiding some other learner as well. So group ID means what? If we write something like com dot maybe zfz, okay, gigs for gigs, this will be a package. Artifact ID, the project name which you are going to write here. Let's say demo Hibernate. So I'm giving a project name demo Hibernate, and this is the package name I'm writing here. Okay, com.gfg. This is very simple. just write this is the project name. Okay, click on finish here. So this might take some time here, so you can focus in the console. This project is getting created, as you can see here, scanning for projects. So you just need to wait until it is 100% completed. And we also need to give permission here. Yeah, so as you can see here, they are asking our permission. So you just need to give your yes, press Y, and then enter. Now you can see here build success. So the project is successfully created. Okay. Now we can see here demo Hibernate. As you can see, this is our project, right? Just quickly, let's expand this. What are the file we have here? I hope this is visible to you all. So as you can see here, src main Java. This is the uh, file where we are going to write our predefined classes and interfaces like configuration, session factory, session, everything we are going to write here. Okay. And as you can see here, src test. So this is for testing purpose. We are not going to focus on these particular things. Then you can see here JRE system libraries. So as you can see here, Java, you can see here 1.7 is getting selected by default. And you know that this is the older version. We have created the Maven project now. So what we need to do, we need to first of all uh, change this version. So for that, what we can do, right click here in demo Hibernate, and then you can see here build path. Okay, from here you can see configure build path. First thing is, as you can see here, Java 1.7 is getting selected. So this is the older version. By default it got selected. So what we are going to do, we are going to remove this. Then again we are going to add library here. So as you can see here, JRE system libraries, if not selected, select there, click on next. Workshop default JRE, just click on finish. Okay, version is not showing. Okay, it's okay, click on apply. Then we also need to select the Java version. So as I'm using here Java version 17, if you are using Java 21 also, you can select accordingly. So here in Java compiler, click on Java compiler. On the right hand side, you can see it is 1.7 selected. So first of all, you need to verify whether it has been updated or not according to your version. So I will be selecting here 17 because I'm using 17. Apply, click on yes, apply and close. Now my project is updated. Now, whenever we create a Maven project, the very most important thing is pom.xml. What is that pom.xml file? It is an XML file. Through this file, we are going to give reference to those dependencies. Now, in this project, we need two dependencies. What are those dependencies? We need one Hibernate dependencies, another one is MySQL, because we are dealing with our Java application, database, and Hibernate. These are two different things. So we have to give dependency here. Okay. So as you can see here, these are the some predefined codes are given here. Everything will be automatic. Here is already there. Now you can see dependencies, right? This is the parent tag here, dependencies. Under that, you can see already one predefined dependencies is being used. That is JUnit. Okay, you know that this is also one of the framework, okay, for testing. Now let it be there as it is. We are going to use two things, okay, here. One is our Hibernate, another one is MySQL. So from where we can get that dependencies? For that, again, we have to search from the official site. Okay, official site of our Hibernate and MySQL. So in that case, I am going to share, maybe just a minute, I'll be sharing my screen again. Just a minute. Let me share it again. I'll be sharing browser as well because you know only. Just give me a minute. Okay, I'll be sharing my browser. Okay, so for now, I'll be sharing the entire screen so that just give me a minute. Yeah, so I think my browser is visible. So as you can see here, is my browser visible? So I hope this is visible now. Yeah, so we can go ahead. Okay, so here, first thing is we need to download the dependencies, right? So we are going to use two dependencies. One is Hibernate dependencies. So we can directly write here Hibernate Maven dependencies. We can directly search in Google also, or directly we can go ahead with the Maven repositories. Okay, so this is the official site from where we used to download the dependencies. Okay, so here, uh, if you click the link, if it is not visible also, don't worry, I'll be guiding you. So as you can see here, this is the Maven repository site from where we can get the dependencies which we need here. This is the official site. Okay, there are so many versions now, will be confusing, right? Which one to use, which one not to use. Don't worry about that. We can check the version. We can, there are some latest version. You just follow on the uses. Okay, the one which is more uses is more comfortable. I think people are getting comfortable with that version. So as you can see here, here you can use this 6.3.1 final version. Okay, 15 uses already there. Now if you slightly go down, you can see here 5.6.15 final version, right? So if you click on open here, okay, so as you can see here, this is the dependency which we need. Okay, so you can see here in this box, Maven is selected. Just click here, and you can see copy it to clipboard. Once you click there, this entire dependency will be copied. Now this entire dependency we are going to copy and paste it. Okay, so I'll be sharing again. I'll be sharing my STS. So let me share my STS again. So any confusion here. So as you can see here in the STS, I'm pasting here, just paste it. Okay, and you can see here, this is the dependency for our Maven, what you can say, Hibernate course. Now you can see this is not systematically arranged. To arrange this, you can use Control Shift and F for formatting. And you can see the when I press Control Shift and F, automatically these dependencies are arranged. I mean to say the indentation is properly maintained. Okay, so these are the dependencies which we are going to use. This is for Hibernate. Now since we are going to communicate with our database as well, so we need our dependency for database as well. So for that, I'll go back to our browser again, and here we can type. As you can see on the search bar, you can see already I typed there. So you can see here my SQL connector, right? So click on search, and you can see these are 8073 uses. So this is the version you can use. And in my PC, MySQL version 31 is used, so you can use 33 also. So as you can see here, 8.0.31, click on that and copy this dependency, and we'll go back to our STS project. After this dependency, you paste it here. So okay, you can see here again, it is not arranged. To format it, Control Shift and F. Fine. So this has been updated. Now press Ctrl S. Then when you press Ctrl S, you can see on the bottom of the page, bottom right corner, there was updating, right? Now what happened here? Once we paste this dependency, where we can see the changes. So the changes we can see is under Maven dependency. So if we expand that, earlier it was not there, okay? So if you expand that, you can see here MySQL connector version 8.0.31 jar, okay, it is already being attached here, included here. And also you can see Hibernate is getting included here. Can you see this? So the required dependency is already being included, okay. That means whatever other dependencies you need in your project, that you need to paste, you need to paste the dependency in your pom.xml file. Once it is done, next most important thing is we are going to define a class. For that we are going to map in our databases. So as you can see here, we are going to focus mostly on this src main java, okay, because we created this com.gfg. This is a package. If we expand that, here already a predefined class is there, that is app.java. This is a predefined class, okay. Once we created the project, automatically it got created. If you want to create newly, you can create it. So a predefined statement is also there, hello world, okay. So we can say here hello hibernate. So you just type here hello hibernate. Now to run that, let's see whether it is working or not. Run as Java application, okay. So click on OK, and you can see here hello hibernate. That means this class is getting executed. Here what we need a class. For that we are going to create our database table from our Java application, right? So what we need to create a class. So right click, I'm repeating again, right click on com.gfg, click on new, and then here you can click on class, right? Under the same package com.gfg, no need to change anything here under the package. Just write a uh, uh, class name, or maybe say uh, entity name, right? So let's say I want to create a class for employee. So let's write here employee, and no need to use main method. Already one class is there, app.java, that already we have main method. So click on finish. Like I have annotated these classes, so here we have to use some properties. Let's say private. So why I'm writing private, I'm sure you already know about this access specifier, private, public, protected. So I want to make this properties private. So private integer, let's say eid, fine. Then also I want to define here private string employee name, right? Then I want to define one more property. Let's say private string employee designation, right? So I want to define this designation. Now, as you all know that inside a class we have the property as well as the methods, right? So how to set these values of eid, employee name, employee designation, we need constructors and getters setters method, right? In that case, what we are going to do, we need some boilerplate code. How can we generate that? We can go ahead with the source, right? And from source, you can see here, if you go down, generate constructor using fields. First of all, we will generate the default constructor. So this is how we generate, as you can see in my screen. So this is the default constructor, right? We need to import parameterized constructor as well. I'm sure you already know about this, right? After that, we need to use the getters and setters methods. So for that, we will be using here getters and setters. Okay. So for these properties, we need getters and setters. So select all, then click on generate. If you need toString method, you can use that also. ToString method is a like it's a method, predefined method that are used to print the object details in a string format, right? So you can use that as well. I'm sure you have learned all these concepts. If not, also in our further lecture, I'll be explaining everything in detail. Okay, so this is the entity class. Now, as a Java developer, what we will be doing, we will be writing these entity classes like this because we know how to handle, how to define the types of properties, how to define the constructor, setters method, getters method, right? So we will be depending on these classes, and Hibernate will help us to convert this into database table that we are going to see. But to make understand Hibernate, we have to inform that what exactly you want. So I want this to be created a table, okay, by this name. So in that case, first of all, we have to use some annotation, and you know that annotation always start with @. So the very first and annotation is entity. So entity, it represents that this is the entity class for which I want to create a table. Let's say you want to create you want to change this table name. So in that case, we can use table. So table is one more entity here. So if you want to change the name, we can use here name is equal to, let's say, GFG employee. Okay, let's say EMP. So whatever name you write, by that same name, table will be created in our databases. And you know that in every table, there must be some primary key, right? So in generally, if we go ahead with the MySQL, there we can write primary key. You know how to set the primary key, right? By using SQL command. But here we are not writing SQL command. So we have to make understand those Hibernate that I want to make this EID as primary key. So to make him understand, we will be using one annotation, and that is ID. So you can see here, press Ctrl and space, they will give automatic reference here. Okay, you can see. You might be wondering like how I'm getting automatically. No. So if you type here, let's say, if you do not know from where it is getting imported, just press I and just you press Ctrl and space. Automatically they will give reference. Okay, so you can see here Java X persistence. Fine. So these are the properties which I wanted to use here. Now what we will be doing, we will be using one XML file, because through that XML file we have to give the connection, right? So what we will be doing, we'll be creating one XML file, right click in src main java, and then new. There is no XML file, you can see here, click on others, and then you can see if it is already created here, so coming automatically. If it is not coming, just type here XML. Those who are learning for the first time, you might not see this XML file here. So for that, you need to import it. Okay, so you can go to your Windows. From there, workspace is there. I'll be showing you. Let me show you first this. So let's create a XML file. Give the XML file name. Let's say I want to give a Hibernate dot configuration file, right? So cfg dot xml. Okay, to finish it. So as you can see, this is the XML file. Here we are going to provide all the connections. Okay, now in this case, like those who are learning, those who are creating this Maven project for the first time, you will not be able to create XML file because you have to import it. So you can see here, go to Windows. From here, preferences. Okay, so here you have to select this web development. You have to click on this you have to give tick mark, right? So you have to configure a bit here. So if not, I will be guiding you. Then you need to go to help, and then from here Eclipse marketplace. Okay, from here you have to first of all import it. So in the search button, you have to type XML. Once you install, then only you will be able to create XML file. Otherwise, no. Okay. So this might take. We were running out of time as well. So I would like to quickly show you the entire file. Okay. In the find, you can see here. Just type XML. XML. So if you click on go, you will get this. It is already installed in my case. If it is not installed in your case, you can do it. Okay. So for now, I'll be closing this because it is already being installed in my case. If it is not installed in your case, you can install it. So for the first timer, you might wondering like there are so much of configuration. Yes, for the first time, you have to do it. Okay. So as you can see, this is already installed. Okay, just remember this icon. So this XML file you need to install here. Okay, so I'll move ahead. Here we have to provide the configuration. So what are the most important configuration file we are going to use here? The very first thing is we are going to use one DTD. Now what is the DTD? So that DTD we are going to again download from here. So I'm opening one more tab. Okay, so in this tab I'll be writing here Hibernate DTD. Okay, so just type Hibernate DTD. So as you can see, the first link, the first link, and then from here, as you can see the file Hibernate configuration 3.0. Just click on this file. It is getting downloaded. Open this file. So now we need this particular file. Okay, as you can see, this particular file we need here. Okay, copy this easily manage it. No need to by heart all this. Everything will be automatically coming here. Okay, so now this is the file which we need. Okay, this is the DTD file. Now from here we have to specify the session factory, also what are the properties you are doing, right? So we are going to do that, right? So let me, oh, my screen got closed, I guess. So I'm sharing my screen once again. uh, I'll be sharing my STS. So directly from there I'll be guiding you. Wait a minute. Yeah. So I hope my STS is visible. So as you can see, my STS is being shared, right? Just a minute. Okay. So now, as you can see here, my STS is visible to you. Now let's quickly do it. Okay, we have to write some configuration. The very first configuration is we need to write here the session factory part here, right? So what, how to write this session factory? So just type here session. For time saving, I'll be double S control space. Okay, session. It is not being given. I'll do one thing. I have already created some projects, so I'll be directly copying from there, and then I'll paste it here. Okay, so I'll paste it here. Okay, and then we need to close this session factory. Fine, this is done. This is also, for now it's not required. You can easily get it. Now you can see here the very first one is this is also, for now we can skip this. Okay, so as you can see here, session factory, and here property, then name. The very first name is driver. If you remember, if you have done JDBC, these are the very common things, right? In JDBC, we must have to give the connection, or you can say username, password, and all. So this is the driver details, and then here you can see this is our JDBC. So here, if you are using different databases, so in my case, I'm using my MySQL. So let me quickly show you. I need to log into my database. So I have so many databases. So let's say I want to create one database, and then I would like to show you the connection as well. Okay, there's a database named ACTE Java. TE, let's say Java. So by this name, your database must be created in your MySQL, right? So password is same, root, username is also same, and these are the few configurations. Okay, if you use this property, then you can see the SQL command getting generated in your terminator, right? Also, if you want to format the SQL, you can use this. These are not compulsory, but this driver URL username password, these are the configuration file which we use in JDBC as well, so we need that, and this is for update, right? So let's save this file. We are getting one document root. Okay, somewhere we have not closed it. Everything is fine. So Hibernate configuration is being missed here. Hibernate configuration must be given there. That is why I was getting error. So let's cut this, and at the end we need to paste it. You can format it. Now there is no error. Okay. So everything is lined up. Now what we need to do, we can go to our app.java. As you can see in my PPT as well, the very first thing is what we need to use the configuration, right? So we need to use here one object of configuration. Let's say cfg is equal to, we need to create an object, and you know how to create the object, right? New configuration. Just a minute. Yeah, so as you can see here, so I'm creating one instance of this configuration class, right? Now, with the help of this configuration class, what we need to do is we need to get the properties. You need to configure, right? How to configure? With the help of this object, cfg is the object, right? Or you can say reference dot. We need to access this configure method. Inside this configure method, what we need to tell? We need to tell our hibernate.cfg.xml, because in that particular XML file, we have all those database properties, right? So just write the file name of this Hibernate, so which is hibernate.cfg.xml, right? Once it is configured, next most important thing is we need to create the session factory. Remember that diagram? So I'll be going back to the diagram again. So as you can see here, session factory, and create one reference. Session factory is equal to, so this is an interface, so we cannot create new session factory because this is an interface. We cannot create the object. So for that, what you have to do, cfg dot, you can see here, build session factory. Okay, this is the property which, through which we can communicate with our databases. So once the session factory is created, next you can see here, we need to create the object, right? We have a class that is employee, and to set the values, to call this setters method, getters method, to access this, in short, we need to create the object. So for that, we need to use like, let's say employee emp is the object, is equal to, let's say, new employee, right? I'm sure you already have done this. These are the simple things only. Now, once we create the object, now we can access the properties like this getters method, setters method, right? So with the help of this getters and setters method, we are going to set some value. Let's say emp dot, as you can see here, set. So the very first thing is employee id. Let's say my employee id is 13. Okay, randomly I'm giving here. Then emp dot, let's say, set employee name. Let's say employee name here is Faizul. Okay, then next is designation. Let's say designation. So let's say trainer. These are all are string, right? So let's say trainer. The properties has been set. Now it's time to save this property in our database. Now to save that, we already have opened the session factory. To save that, we need to give a reference of session as well. Okay, so give the reference of this session. Can you see that? After session factory, we have session. Let's say session is the reference, is equal to. Now how exactly we can open the session? With the help of session factory. So what is the reference of session factory? It is sf dot, you can see here, open session, right? After the session is open, now since we are going to save this data in our database, that means what? Like I mentioned here, our diagram was like, what we need to do, this data needs to be saved. For that, we need to open the transaction as well, right? So use transaction. Let's say tx is equal to, how exactly we can open the transaction here? Yes, we can use for a particular session. What is the object of session? That is the object which is session here. Dot, you can see here, begin transaction, right? So just use begin transaction, and then with the help of this transaction object, what we are going to do, we are going to save this. to session is the reference. Session dot save is a predefined method. Okay, so what we are going to save? We are going to save our employee object. So what is the object of employee? Emp. Fine. Once it is done, we need to commit it. As you know, in database, to save it permanently, we need to commit it. So how exactly we can commit it? Directly we can use here mm, tx, because transition needs to be committed, right? So you can see here commit. Done. So this is the configuration file we need to do. Fine. So what we have done, if you have understood my theory part, first thing is we need to create the object of configuration, then we need to create the reference of session factory, then the entity class for which we are going to save the data, and then also we have to create the session and then transaction for saving permanently in databases, right? This is the flow. And before I execute, this particular file needs to be mapped here. So in the Hibernate file, before we close this Hibernate configuration, we also need to use one mapping. Okay, let's say here mapping. Just use control space. This is self-contained text slash I'll give at the end. Here we have to give the class name. So class is equal to, for which class you want to save data. The class is employee, and that employee is under which package? com.gfg, right? So we will be defined here com.gfg dot the employee. Okay, let's write the employee. This is the class name. Fine. So this needs to be given here, otherwise they will not be able to map it. Okay, that's it. Now it's good time to test this program. Okay, so this is our main program, and you all know that we always have to run the class, or the class where we have the main method. So right click here, and let's see if there is some error. We'll verify it. If everything is fine, then we can see the output here. I mean, here only we can see the code as well. So as you can see here, see, these are the command which get generated. Okay, normally to create this table, we need to write this command. Okay, and you can see these are the command got generated. Fine. So who is doing that? Our Hibernate application is generating this command. Now the question is, you might be thinking how you are able to see this in Java, what you can say, console, right? That is because in the Hibernate cf.xml file, if you go there, can you see this? Show XML. This means this particular property is helping us to see the SQL command getting generated behind the scene here in the console, right? Because of this, if you remove this property, you won't be able to see this, what are the SQL command getting generated behind the scene, or how the Hibernate is generating this command, right? And see, these are the, everything is properly formatted. If we are not using format SQL, then you won't be able to see this, you know, formatted table structure. Yeah, so this is the basic of Hibernate. Okay, now you just have seen, I have shown you, if you see the backend, in my backend already table is getting created. Okay, that I'm going to share with you also. uh, this is the flow. Let me quickly revise what we have done so far. Like in the pom.xml file, you need to define the dependencies. I have shown you from where exactly you can get the dependencies and where to paste it. Once you save, first of all, you need to verify whether these dependencies has been successfully imported in your project or not, and that you can see in your maven dependency folder. You can verify there. Once it is there, then you can go inside this com.gfg. You are not supposed to do any testing here for now, leave it. Src main resources also, you're not supposed to do anything there. Under that com.gfg, you can see this is the main class where we need to define all those predefined interfaces and predefined classes, which I was explaining in at the very beginning of this session. Also, you can see this is the most important file. This is like JDBC. Ultimately, to connect with your database, you need to define the properties. So these are the properties, and no need to by heart all this. Okay, this file will be shared with you all. Okay, and yeah, this is how we execute it. and I have defined only one entity, right? For this entity employee, we have seen a table is getting created by the name GFG employee. Okay, and in future, what we are going to do, as you know, in our project, we will be having multiple entity. So we will be writing multiple entity class here. And also we are going to associate. Associate means the reference, how a particular entity class is referred to another classes. And after mapping or reference, we can complete our project. So this is the role played by Hibernate. So as a Java developer, we need to focus more on the Java programmer. As you can see, we are not supposed to write this SQL command here. Okay. So with this, I'm concluding my session today. Uh, this is just to give you a basic introduction about the Hibernate. You have seen how it can be implemented with the help of an entity classes. In future, I'll be guiding you how can we refer one entity class to another classes. Okay. Yeah, with this, I'm going to conclude this. Thank you and have a good day ahead.